Nordic Tales and American Trails is an outdoor and hunting podcast focusing on tales and trails from Northern Europe and the USA, hosted by Erik Rodin from Sweden and Adam Wood from Louisiana. The podcast covers all aspects of the outdoors, with a special emphasis of hunting with dogs. We will explore the unique tales and trails of our region, the various dog breeds used in hunting, and the differences in hunting practices between the USA and Northern Europe. Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, we're actually recording consecutively, so we actually have our greetings kind of done, So an interesting thing I was asked this week was by a buddy of mine who's been listening to our podcast. He's kind of a newbie guy, but I want to give him a shout out, my friend Matt. He was sort of asking about our routine and just everything that leads up to our hunting, like the gear and stuff. So I guess that kind of segues me into a question for you: is how does your day start off? You have you have a hunt planned, or if you even want to go before that, whenever the hunt gets planned, or however you feel like you want to start it.
Yeah, sure. So basically, here, as everything is private property, right? So I would say it starts. So our hunting season is July to July. So basically, if you rent or you pay to be a part of a hunting area, you're gonna have legal access to that area July to July. So first off, I would start at basically, like, I always you always want to improve yourself. You want to improve your areas where you're hunting and all that. But it also comes down to, like, I could pay a shitload of money to get access to some very, very good grounds, but that might be 3 hours away from my home, right? I know you, uh, in a previous episode, talked about this as well. Like, sometimes work is in the way, and it's definitely easier to get more hunting days if you have hunts close to where you live, basically, right? So I would say that that's part of the preparation here, is that trying to improve where you're hunting. And but, like, currently, like, I'm very happy with the two areas I have access to now. So basically, one of my areas is literally 3 minutes walk from my house, and then I have another area which is like an hour car drive away. But that one is it's a very nice area. It's for being this in the middle of Sweden. There's no big roads, there's no railroads, there's nothing like that that's dangerous to the dog. And basically, we only have moose and forest birds on that property. So I feel it's a very good area to start your young dogs on, because the most dangerous game up there will be moose that the dog will hunt. Then obviously there is some wolves around and all that, but, like, that's how it starts here. But then when it comes to, like, a prepared hunt, so say we have a prepared hunt for Saturday, then my routine would actually start already on Friday, right? So other than making sure all the Garmin trackers and the radios and all that is charged up and works, your gun is sighted in and all that. For me, that's like pre-prepping the start of the year, so to say. But I would also, I'm gonna like charge up your dogs. I'm not sure if there's an English term for it, but basically, the night before a hunt, I will feed my dogs 50 to 100% more of their normal give of a food, so to say. So, like, they will get maybe double the amount of food the night before, uh, and then 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours before the hunt starts, I'm gonna feed them water mixed with, like, protein powder, similar powder to that you take if you go to a gym or you work out. Like, it's gonna be a lot of minerals, very easily to consume energy, so to say. And I'm gonna give them that 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours before we hunt. So that's how I charge my dogs, so to say. I'm not sure if that's the term.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
not really an American term. I just say kind of what you're saying, kind of like a pre-hunt preparation. That's not like you say, charge up your dogs. It's kind of
Yes,
Everybody will know what you mean at least, you know?
yeah. So it's basically how you would treat it as if you're running a long race yourself or something. Like you can't eat a. So if you're gonna run for a few hours yourself, if you eat a shitload big breakfast, that's not gonna feel great.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
you want to fuel these dogs like athletes because they
yeah,
are
exactly.
athletes, you know? So yeah, you can't treat them no differently because
No,
they're doing what an athlete does.
yeah, I'm gonna. So one of the bigger Swedish podcasts talks about this a little bit. Like being in a hunting dog, it's like running a marathon, but also singing opera at the same time because they're running full speed and barking their voices full out. So like that's the mentality I've started to try to have more. Like they're top of the line athletes that also tries to sing opera at the same time. Like you want to try to,
That's a great way to put it, actually.
yeah, you want to try to give them all the opportunities beforehand to perform at full speed. And I also think like I know you work out a fair bit as well. Like if you're not eating correctly, you're gonna break faster. Like you will even if you tear a muscle, but like if you're on a good diet and all that, it's gonna repair faster and you're gonna be less affected by it. And I think that's something I like. Younger me definitely try to save a bit of cash on dog food and all that, but like these days, I try to get as good food as we can, and then I also do this charge up dog preparation. And then for after the hunt, I give them basically. I'm not sure the term for it, but like if it's very hot outside, you drink like water mixed with minerals and salt and sugar and all that. Like
Yeah,
the
kind of like electrolytes and stuff like
yeah,
that.
electrolytes. That's the
Hmm.
English word. So then I would
Yeah,
give that.
yeah.
I would give them that as close to the hunt is over as I can, mixed with like maybe half a liter of water. Uh, and then if we hunt the following day, I just repeat. So then they get a big scoop of food for the evening, and then I just try to repeat that. And I'm not. I feel that they definitely recharge faster in a sense. And I think that makes sense because that's how athletes does it as well, right?
Yeah, same thing. Cause me, you know, as a martial artist and I train in MMA, it's the same thing. So you're gonna have your pre-workout nutrition, post-workout nutrition. It's super important. I mean, because you're preparing, especially with that post-workout, like you're saying right now, you're preparing for your next training session, or in the dog's world, the next hunt. You know.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So, and then obviously for me as well, like as our we can only have our Lycas off leash from like August to January to make it simpler. So the off season, I try to run or bicycle or pull weight with the dogs and all that as well to like try to keep them in such a good shape and form as I can. So I think that's my dog preparation for a hunt. So how is your dog preparation for a hunt?
So, um, pretty similar. But we kind of have, I kind of have always had a different principle that I followed, which is something that I think kind of maybe a lot of old school hunters have. But as far as the night before, it's the same. I do a very highly nutritious meal, very filling. But because especially most of our hunts are going to be early morning hunts, I like to hunt them fasted. Um, because from what I've always kind of what we've been a belief we've kind of followed is that like a hungry dog hunts harder, you know, or performs better. They kind of like you know, where like a wolf is weighed down by their meal. Not to say that a nutritious meal wouldn't fuel them, just that it's kind of the same thing for me. I also, if I have an early morning, whatever, I always do it fasted, you know, off of a good meal the previous night before. So that's all I do. Same thing. Make sure my collars are charged up. All my stuff is prepared, dog wise. And then like right now, currently, I'm maybe a month out from starting my hunting. So I've been doing a lot of, while it's really hot, I don't have much like grass that I can run my dogs on myself. So, it's a lot of concrete and blacktop, which is horrible on their pads, plus the heat. So, I'm doing a lot of treadmill work with them. I'm putting him on a treadmill and he actually loves it. You know, these Lycas are so high energy, they start craving it once you start doing it. So I'll go in my garage and train, and while I'm training, he's on the treadmill, and yeah, I just don't push him too hard, you don't want to exhaust him, and just to keep him in good shape. That way, those races and all he's pretty prepared for it.
Yeah, those treadmills. I've got videos both from Darren and stuff. Like, I'm definitely looking at those treadmills because for me, my dogs will be in an okay shape until maybe June, like when the summer heat hits. Like, season ends in January, and then I get them a few weeks to rest, and then you start running with them and all that. And I feel like I have my dogs in good shape to end of June every almost every year, and then in July when the heat hits, and like, yeah, those treadmills looks damn exciting, man.
Yeah,
Putting one
it's
of those in your garage and just letting the dog run a
yeah,
few.
it's a super convenient, man, and it's easy for you. I mean, and honestly, if you can bike the dog and get them a good workout, but if you're trying to just run with the dog, I mean, a dog can run much better than us.
Oh
Well,
yeah,
most of us, anyways, and
yeah.
so
If
it's
you're
hard.
if you're not a top athlete runner, you're not gonna keep up with a Leica
Yeah,
or even a hound for that matter, for sure.
yeah. So those treadmills work wonders. I recommend them to anybody, and just go through the training and make sure you get the proper ones. Do your research, of course, because you don't want to put your dog in any kind of harm's way or potential hazards by not being well studied on it yourself. So, you were speaking of, while it's on my mind, I wanted to ask, because we're talking about having our rifle sighted in prior to the season beginning and whatnot. What's your go-to? What's your rifle setup like?
So over here, it's a lot harder to have a lot of guns. So basically, I currently only hunt with one gun. So I have a Browning 308 with a short barrel. Uh, so I'm not sure how it is in inches, but the barrel is only 46 centimeters. So it's a very short gun, which works okay for 308. It does okay in short barrels. And then I have a silencer on it. And then I use a 1:4 scope.
Okay, and I just looked it up just to real quick. 46 centimeters, you said?
Yep.
So that's 18 inches, which is also my barrel length. But I'll let you continue.
No. So that's good. And so yeah, that's the so Browning 308, 18-inch barrel, silencer, 1:4 scope on it. I'm definitely pleased with it and happy with it. It has what can the English term for it? Like, so the stock of the gun has like a hole for your thumb.
Yeah,
Is
thumb hole grip. That's how we
Yes,
call it.
yeah, thumb hole grip. So I'm very pleased with that, and it's laminated stock, so I'm not afraid of scratching it in the woods and all that.
Ah,
Uh, be-
okay.
Before I had one of those really old time carved wood stocks that you're afraid to even get a little scratch on it. So when I committed to dog handling fully, then I decided I wanted to get a gun that I'm not afraid to push through thickets and all that.
Yeah, which is important with our style of hunting.
Oh yeah, yeah. Most of the time you might be crawling or being on your knees trying to find an opening window between the branches. So yeah, for sure. So what gun do you mainly use?
So originally, which is like kind of a go-to for a lot of hog hunters who are doing closer range hunting, I was using a lever action 30-30, and I had a red dot scope on it, well, red dot sight, um, which is great because 30-30 is kind of a heavier bullet, so it's great for thick brush at close range, especially. But this past season, I got a Savage Axis 2, which is not super expensive at all. So something again, for a different reason, I'm not too concerned that, the way it looks. I can kind of run it through the woods and the swamp and everything and not be super concerned. But, it's actually Savage Axis 2 in 350 Legend. Um, I ran it with a red dot sight this season and I love it. And I went with 350 Legend because again, it's another heavy bullet that does a lot of damage at close range. and I don't have to worry about the pass through so much, especially us hunting with dogs that are typically baying, and so you could kind of minimize that a little bit, right? But yeah, so but I think this year I'm actually switching it. I'm gonna put I got a Strike Eagle Vortex, and it's a one by six magnification scope that I'm gonna put on it because I'm also gonna use it to deer hunt because that round is still pretty good up to at least 100 yards in the stands that I do deer hunt in. I don't deer hunt often, but when I do, it's gonna be 100 yard plots. So I'm gonna try and use the same rifle, which leads me to another question because you use the same rifle for everything, correct?
Yeah, basically, I would use the same gun for almost every hunt.
So
So
you're
I
obviously shooting
sighted,
it close
I,
and
si- I,
far.
s- well, I sighted in so it's bullseye at 80 yards.
Okay. Okay. So whenever you're shooting, say, because like my typical shot on a wild boar bait up is what, maybe like 20 yards, where are you typically holding for something
Yeah,
like that?
a little bit lower where I wanna hit, basically. So I figured out the bullets I'm shooting, like at 80 yards, the bullet is still like slowly going up, right? So I think
Yeah. Yeah.
so at like maybe 100, 110 yards, I think is when it starts to go down. So basically, when it's so short range, I feel um, like I'm not that a great shot. So like if I hold in the kill zone, I know even if it's 30, 60 or 90 yards, I still gonna be within the kill zone. Um, I try the bullets I use on different yards, and it doesn't really. It's only a few inches difference on the different yardage.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah. That's something I was just kind of curious because
yeah,
I'm about to sight my rifle in. So I was just kind of wondering what
yeah,
I was going to do in
yeah,
that aspect.
I've actually the last 3 years for every hunt except the brown bear, I use copper bullets instead of lead. Um, simply because the conversation here is that lead is gonna be banned most likely in within a few years, and then I feel like then I prefer to try out other options before you are forced to try out other options, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah. Right. Right. Like you're kind of better to be prepared for something
Yeah,
that may not
exactly.
happen than if it
Yeah,
happens and you're not prepared, right?
yeah, exactly. But
So,
for brown bear, I still use lead bullets because they're a little bit less likely to be affected by a small branch or something like that.
yeah, yeah. So, something I wanted to ask as far as leading up to it's kind of not really leading up to the hunt, but it's part of the hunt. So I know that so the way we typically hunt the American style, someone who's using a dog with wild boar, they're gonna hunt together. The hunters are gonna be together. The dogs are gonna find the boar. When they're bait up or caught, one of the two, you go into it and get them. So, as we kind of discussed earlier, you guys, as you being the dog handler, you'll have even your bay dog. You'll cut them loose in the area, but you'll have hunters set up in certain areas to catch the wild boar as it's running. If you're not able to get it while it's bait up, or vice versa.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely, definitely.
so how do y'all determine, or I mean, I'm assuming it's by the likely paths that the animal's going to take, but how do you determine where you're going to set up the hunters, and like how do you figure out what's the most likely path the game is going to take? And I'm asking this because this style of hunting is kind of something I want to start doing this year because I feel like we could have actually got a lot more wild boar this past season hunting this way, that the ones that did get away, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So basically here, as it feels like I'm repeating myself, but everything here is private, right? So my hunting team would lease the 5,000, 4,500 acres that we hunt, and we're allowed to put up wood stands and all that by a contract with the landowner. Basically, some of the old timers I'm hunting with now, they've been on that property for 40 years. And then you know the natural paths for most game. Now wild boar is a different animal in that sense. It doesn't take the same route as a moose, for example. So I'm gonna reframe your question a little bit towards moose, and then we're gonna also add into what makes different for wild boars. So basically, the team leader or the hunting leader will decide, okay, this morning drive we're gonna hunt this area, and that might be 500, 600 acres. And then by history and by knowing where the game normally goes, and depending on how many we are, let's say we're 6 shooters and only me as a dog handler to make it a bit simpler. And then we check how the wind is blowing. So let's say the wind is coming from south going north, then I'm gonna want to walk with my dogs so the dogs get the wind in their nose, basically. So we walk towards the wind direction, right? So the most baying breeds here, they will wind more than they will follow a track compared to a hunt. So basically, okay, so then maybe where so I'm gonna go in from this spot, and then there might be 2 shooting stands normally in that area, and then you might not use those 2 because I'm gonna come from that direction anyway, right? So then I can try to run back up if the game is trying to sneak out that where I'm come from, basically. And then you might decide, okay, so this is the 6 shooting stands we have. Normally here you would make a lottery, so we use a card deck, and then there's a number of it, so like stand 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you just pass that around. So you try to, I'm not sure, avoid that someone always get the best stand. So you make it random where you're standing. It's also kind of fun, I think, because then you tend up to be on different locations every time. So even if you hunted the same area 2 weeks ago, you're gonna be in a different stand this time. But we also try to use, so most teams here would use, I'm gonna try to describe it. So the application is called WeHunt or Easy Hunt. Those are the 2 main phone applications that we have. And they're kind of like a mix between Onyx and a Garmin unit. So basically on the map, so you have your property lines, you have then your areas within the property. So normally you might hunt the same areas of the property, right, as a drive, and then you can place out different stands. So you place out on the maps where the stands are, which also means if someone shows up to hunt with you that hasn't been on the property, they can basically use the application to find and make sure they're on the correct area or on the stand. And we will also mark most stands, even if it's not a shooting tower. We'll put ribbons on a tree so the hunters know they're at the correct location for shooting safeties and all that. But on that application, we can also see the dogs. So basically,
okay.
So
every hunter can see the dogs.
Yeah. So every hunter can see my dogs when we're hunting. So basically, I use a Garmin collar, and then I have a small mobile GPS tracker on the dog as well. So all the hunters can see where the dog is, and then obviously, so let's say between stands 4 and 5, the moose always sneaks out 100 yards north of number 4, or the 4 stand. Then we make a note in stand number 4 should be moved 100 yards north. And so then the next off season, or even if it's if it's an open area, then you might just move it directly. But the following year, then maybe. So then we have, okay, so 4 times the moose went 100 yards north of this, and then for the next season you might move it, and then you make sure all the shooting directions and all that is still safe. So that's how we go about it. So you always try to improve, and that might also mean maybe 10 years ago when there was clear cuts around, shooting stand 4 was amazing. Maybe we got a moose there every year, but then it's gone 10 years by, and now the moose goes a few yards away, and then you just move it. But then you're also going to have, so on the property I'm hunting, we have a river, right? And there's basically 3 river crossings that the animals use. So obviously those 3 crossings is going to have a very well-built stand on them. because that's not really gonna change.
Right, right. That's always going to be pretty much commonly used, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you tend to always want to have a shooter on that stand. So that's how we go about it. But I also think like the way we hunt wild boar on some of the areas, we're normally a lot less people. And this is also similar to how we do with brown bear or fox hunts and all that. Is that instead of like having, so on moose hunts, you tend to have a dictated stand. So like I'm placed on shooting stand 4, then I can't move away from that area for safety reasons, which is obviously something you don't want to mess around with. You don't want to walk away and get into the shooting lane of someone else. But on the smaller wild boar hunts, we might, instead of having they take the stand, we might have a area. So like I might covering 300 yards along this dirt road and then 50 yards into the forest. Then I can move freely within that area. So and then on these applications, everyone, you see each other with the GPS sharing on the phone, and you also see the dogs. So then you can, like, if you're a smaller group and you trust each other, then you can like you can keep track of where the others are without talking with each other, and then you can make sure. So like maybe I protect this 500 yards of a dirt road, and then I know I cannot go past that bend of the road, because then that's gonna be a friend's area to shoot at, so to say. So that's how we do it a little bit more with wild boars. So we try to have it more loose in a sense, but we only do that if we trust everyone that's on the hunt.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can't blame you there. Would you say that more wild boar taken to the people on the stand or the shooters over the wild boar that are being bait up?
So basically, in most areas here, the only person that's ever allowed to go into a bait up animal will be the dog handler. Uh, so 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 basically, you're never allowed to go in on another. So even so, if a friend's dog is paid up, I might call him on the radio, right? Because we can use radio for communication, and we can also chat in the phones, right? And then maybe I'm 500 yards away from his paid up dog, and he's 2,000 yards away. Then obviously he can say, "Oh, well, you can sneak in on this paid up game for me." But basically, you have to be asked to do it. You definitely don't do that without confirmation or approval by the dog owner, so to say. And that even goes for most cases. So if my dog goes into another hunting area, most guys or most other hunting teams will try to reach out to me if they know it's my dog, and just let me know, like, we're gonna try to sneak up on this bayed dog or this bayed game. We think it's your dog, and then I'm like, oh, it's my dog. Of course, you can go in and try to shoot the moose. So that's how we do it in general, I think. But then you also here you have like the more. I'm not sure if our American listeners have watched the Wild Boar Fevers movies.
Oh man, I've watched them all.
Yeah, there, and that's like a different beast or a different style of hunting where that's as a dog handler on a hunt sim, like now Wild Boar Fever movies, they're on the best ground in whole Europe. Like the amount of games they have on their movies, like that's not the norm in any country they're at. But like a dog handler on a hunt like this, I've been on not obviously that amazing hunts, but like where we might have 15, 20 games down at the end of the day. But like then your only job as a dog handler is to make sure to push the game towards the shooters, right? So on most of those hunts, you can obviously, you're often allowed to shoot a bait up animal if you think it's needed for dog safety. So, for example, a big male boar, you might not want to push him too many times in a thicket before he like gets really aggressive towards the dog, and then you can on most teams, on most area hunts like that, shoot it. But the general goal then is to like just push the game towards the shooters, and then on most of those hunts, you try maybe not to use baying breeds then, because if I basically did that because it was fun to do it with Gimli. And Gimli isn't that long of a bayer. He might bay a moose for 15, 20 minutes, and then he's very happy with it to chase after it for a little bit, in a sense. So, like, I was okay doing that with him because I didn't really affect his style of hunting in a negative way. But if you have a Leica that wanna, or a elk hound that wanna bay up long time, and you always go in there after 10 minutes to push the game out, then there's a big chance you're gonna like mess that dog up.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's why if you're hunting of those, I know you have a friend here in Sweden as well that hunts. Is a dog handler on a lot of those hounds, and like then you tend to have different breeds. You might have Wachtelhound or terriers or something like that. That their style of hunting is to just push the game out of thickets. That's what they want to do, and then you work with the dog better. So So yeah, that's the two different styles, I think, or that's how we do it here. So yeah, I think that sums it up quite well. So what do you think then? How are you gonna go about making shooting stands for wild boar for yourself? Like,
I don't know, man, because like my spots, I know them quite well, so we can kind of sort of determine the most likely pass the game is going to take. I don't know if stands are going to be possible, but just having a hunter on the ground, kind of prepared to shoot running game in general. So what we'll likely do is just have hunters in the woods in kind of open areas, and we don't have that same app, but at least one of my friends that, because when I say having people set up, it will never be more than like 2 or 3 other guys,
yeah,
right? With me being a handler. So I have one friend. We use Dogtra Pathfinder, which is kind of like the Garmin, but you use it on your phone. So it sounds a little more like the one you're talking about. And as long as your other friend has a transmitter and the Pathfinder, they can see you. You can link your systems, and they can see you and your dogs, and vice versa.
yeah.
So yeah.
I know on the newer Garmins, at least, you can also share your location with other Garmin units on 200 and 300, I think.
Oh, okay. I honestly didn't even know that.
Or that might be actually. I'm not gonna. We can do that on the Europe units at least. I know
Yeah.
Garmin difference between Europe market and North American market, but definitely check that out because we can share. If you have the 200 or 300, you can at least share your location with the other people that has the same Garmin unit.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to look into that because right now it's just the Pathfinder that we have, and that's what we're currently using, and it works well. But yeah, so because at the moment we're pretty much splitting up, my buddy and I've all this last season, though we've had tremendous success. I'm just hunting by myself, so the only result is baying, shooting at a bay, or just happenstance that if he busts up a group, then maybe one runs by me, So it kind of just increases our odds because as you know, a lot of times with one dog baying, it can that boar might break several times before you actually are able to sneak into it and get a shot.
Yeah, for sure. And how we do it a lot with wild boars as well. So if I'm hunting with a friend, then I might sneak in and he might position himself 150 yards, 200 yards away from where we think, okay, if I'm gonna fail this sneaking in on the bay, most likely the boar is gonna go that direction, maybe towards a lake or another thick between the two thickets or something like that. So that's how we do
I'm
it as
glad
well.
you said that because I may try to do something like that too. Because that's another thing. I mean, the buddy I'm talking about in particular, we do enjoy hunting together. So if we can do something like that, that might be. I'm just kind of excited to experiment with some of these newer ways. Um, that doesn't have to be just, I guess, being a little more open minded. We don't have to be stuck in such a
Yeah.
dogmatic way of hunting or thinking that there's one successful way. Being a little more open and possibly increasing our odds, which hunting the Nordic style has already done for me tremendously. So why
Yeah.
stop now?
Yeah, for sure. And I think like so what we do, so if I'm with I have a good friend Olle, which we hunt a fair bit. So basically what we would do is we might let our dogs loose in different areas, and then if my dog finds a bait, then he's gonna put his dog on a leash, comes over to me, and then we try together to get in on the bay and do similar. One sneaks in and one try to take a shooting stand 100, 200 yards away. But like what we can also do is, so we might hit a thicket with my dog, and if it's empty, then we just swap dogs. So then he his dog hits the next thickets. And I think a bit how you're hunting, like with different areas, I think that's something you could do as well. So like, I mean, if you take Kylo out for 30 minutes in a thicket, you get a wild a boar bait up. Well, put Kylo on a leash and hunt the next thickets with the curs, and then you swap it around like that as well.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's smart. We're definitely going to try and implement some more of that type of thing, you know, because we have other dogs that all we're trying to justify giving the proper amount of hunting time to, you know. Yeah, I know you're kind of dealing with the same thing. You have 4 of your own, so yeah, we're definitely going to try some new stuff like that. But I mean, is there any other like particular gear that you're using? For instance, I know something that's pretty interesting to me. That don't you guys have like Kevlar type pants and everything?
Yeah, there is definitely guys using Kevlar pants, mainly for wild boar protection. So I still don't use Kevlar pants simply because um, they're definitely heavier than normal pants. And truth be told, like we don't have that amount of wild boars, so like I'm not gonna get on wild boar every day. I think if I were on a property where we always get into thickets with the wild boars, then I would probably use Kevlar pants. Um, but I have Kevlar vests on my dogs, or well, that's a lie. I try to have Kevlar vests on my dog, but my older dogs does not like the vests. But my new Leica now, I'm not gonna let her go in the woods a single day without having the vests on. And that's basically a high visibility yellow orange vest with Kevlar in it, and then I can also put on metal spikes that goes from like the neck all the way back to the tail to protect the spine basically from wolves.
Yeah, that's smart. Um,
So
that's a
I've been,
controversial topic as well. The as far as the vests go, because I've even had a couple of my friends that I was telling you about in Sweden to tell me that because I was trying to get advice on the topic, I was getting a little concerned about cuts and whatnot. Um, my overall consensus is not to use a vest for my Lycus, more so just because of the heat. You know, we don't really even, it doesn't get super cold here, but some of the advantages are obvious as far as the Kevlar protection. But the disadvantage that was told to me is that, especially smart dogs like Lycus, right? They get this like, they do know they're wearing it, so they kind of have extra confidence. So they may be not necessarily more aggressive, but they might have a little more confidence and get a little too close or whatnot. And
yeah.
then, yeah, and then another one was just whatever hindrance it does to their mobility, you know? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. That's why I haven't really pushed the vests on my older Lycas at all. So the reasoning for me to really want to push the vest on my West Siberian Leica is that for the few times I've had her loose in the woods now, like she definitely goes. Like we talked about it early in an early episode, like bottom. Like I'm kind of sure my new like West Siberian Leica will have a big or bottom to really go after, and then I'm most likely wanna be sure she can have the vest on, but I might use it more for wolf protection if it turns out she really ranged out a few thousand yards and do it regularly. Then I wanna, because I think what I failed with the other dogs is that I started with the vest and then I did a few hunts without the vest, and then like obviously they get used to not using it. So I'm gonna try to like really make sure that the new dog is 100% okay with hunting with a vest, and then I can decide if I want it on or off. But like Lily, my oldest one, if I put my vest on her, she's like a statue. Like you can poke her in the butt and she's gonna tip over and lay on her back, like legs up like a dead animal. Like she doesn't move an inch with the vest on. She's like, nope, I'm not moving. I can't move. Something is holding me down. I'm gonna stay put here and you're gonna remove these hideous things from me. And then as soon as you do it, she's gonna crawl out of it and take off full speed.
Yeah, that's funny, man. I think like that's a big thing too here. We don't have that problem with wolves. So, I mean, that wolf, that in and of itself, it scares me to death, man, just thinking about it. So, I mean,
Right.
that's good enough cause right there, just in and of itself to have a vest.
Yeah. But I also know plenty of Leica hunters in America will use the vest to make sure that other hunters don't think it's a coyote.
Yeah, that's especially because like, spitz type dogs are rarely used here in America. So if you don't have some kind of orange or anything on them, it's very responsible to have it, put it that way, especially if you're like is colored up a lot like a wolf.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
why I'm trying to go with which I guess could kind of lead to some of the dog gear, I guess. For me, um I do have a vest that I'll put on him every now and again, which is super, super light. It's literally just for the high visibility. Um, but even then I don't like I get worried about it getting caught up and we hunt in a lot of thick areas. So
Yeah.
a friend of mine, Pamela, she makes these collars, and she made me one like the ones you guys commonly use that kind of have, I don't know what you would call it, but like the flagging on the collars with the high visibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she made me one of those. As you and I talked, I'm trying to get
Yeah.
some official ones from over there because we don't actually have those over here. That's not something typically used. So that's
Yeah.
what
We're
I'm
gonna.
trying to use to as my for high visibility for my Lycus.
Yeah, to make sure no one thinks it's a coyote.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah. So me and Darren are definitely gonna have to hit some shops here to try to find you some of those Garmin flarps or what the English term can be for it.
Yeah, yeah. I don't even think there is one because we don't have them. It kind of I say flagging because it reminds me of a flag football player.
Oh yeah, flag might be a better term. So yeah, and other than that, man, like I use a gun pack. So I have my gun in a backpack holster. Is it called that? Like a gun holster?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't used one. I've seen them used, but I don't have it. I typically just have mine on a sling and I'm toting it.
Yeah. So the reasoning for me to have the gun backpack is I have a first aid kit for dogs with it, and then I have some water for myself and for the dogs and all that with me.
Okay, yeah. So I just have. I guess it's more convenient to have a backpack that also carries your gun, but yeah, I'm typically just carrying my gun and a separate backpack, which contains the pretty much the stuff you just said. I have first aid stuff,
Yeah.
emergency water, separate knives and ropes for different things. The way I pack out the wild boar, sometimes I have to use the rope and I'll backpack the wild boar themselves. So I'll tie the legs together in a fashion to wear the wild boar like a backpack. And yeah, I'm thinking about switching to one that's kind of like a belt though. They have these ones over here. There's like kind of like a not really a fanny pack, but just like a bag that goes around your waist.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So I think and then I'm not sure, like, so would you hunt in like what shoes would you have when you're hunting?
So typically, because of us, the marsh that we're hunting in and the swamps, I'm usually wearing hip boots. A lot of people wear waders, but I typically wear hip boots, and I always go lacrosse. Lacrosse is my brand that I like, feel comfortable in. Um, but yeah, if typically everywhere I go, I wear at least hip boots.
Yeah. So basically I would wear what do you call it? Like military boots that goes above your ankle? Is that
Hmm.
the English phrase or term
Yeah,
for it?
yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, and then I have as I work within the forest industry, so basically during my work hours I also walk in the woods. So I have by now I think I have 6 different pairs, and then I have them of different like I'm not sure would the term be density, like different hardness. So depending on the terrain, I might use military boots that's softer around the ankles, which might be nicer to walk in when you're only hunting forest wooded areas. And then I might have a harder boot that's like made for walking in mountains and rocky terrain and all that. So then depending on what area I think I'm gonna be hunting, I'd pick different boots for the day.
And are they all waterproof or?
Mm, they're waterproof in a little bit. So basically, you most of them are leather. So you have to take care of the leather, and then it's gonna be waterproof ish. Like it's not gonna be fully waterproof. So you can't stand in a lake. You're gonna get wet. But like up until a different point, at least they're gonna be water resistance. Might be the better term, I think.
Right, right. Yeah, we need you know, we're pretty much, especially all of April, the area I was hunting in, I was in water the entire time, you know. At least at least a couple of inches, but up to like my knees, you know.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. So do you think anything? What should we? Is there anything else you think we should talk about when it comes to this topic?
I don't think so. I think we covered a lot, and of course, I mean, this
Yeah,
is an ongoing thing, so if
yeah.
anybody has any questions or anything about the gear, or if we missed anything that you were curious about, feel free to reach out, and we'll be sure to answer that at some point, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely. And as always, like and share. Tell your friends about us. Give us recommendations if you have someone you think we should talk to, and all that. And we hope you enjoyed this episode as well. Have a good evening or a good night, depending on where you're listening from.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.